Verse 2 says, "Now while he tasted the wine, Belshazzar gave the command to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father," and there the word father, it's referring to his grandfather in this case, Nebuchadnezzar, "had taken from the temple which had been in Jerusalem, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the temple of the house of God, which had been in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine, and they praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze and iron, wood and stone." So at some point during this party, now the parties would often last several days, even a week. At some point during this party, Belshazzar, in his drunkenness, ordered that the vessels that his grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar, had taken from the temple in Jerusalem be brought out and brought to the party so they could drink wine from them, and so that they could praise their gods of gold and silver, bronze and iron, wood and stone. And so Belshazzar here, in his arrogance, he begins to blaspheme and mock the true and living God. And maybe he did this to boost morale, with the Medo-Persian army right outside the city wall. Maybe he brought out the vessels from the temple to say to his people, hey, our gods gave us victory over the Jews. He'll give us victory over the Medo-Persians. We've got nothing to worry about. Drink up, party on. And so we're told in verse 5 now, so they're drinking out of the vessels from the temple. It says, "In the same hour, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster." I love the detail here. "On the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, and the king saw the part of the hand that wrote." Now, this is where the phrase, "the handwriting on the wall," comes from. It comes from Daniel chapter 5. There's actually many phrases that have become part of our everyday language that come from or taken from the Bible, in particular the King James Bible. Phrases like "a cross to bear," "a house divided against itself," "a labor of love," "the sign of the times," "a two-edged sword," "you reap what you sow," "go the extra mile." These were all introduced into the English language by the Bible. Again, the King James Bible in particular. So, as the people were drinking out of the vessels from the temple, a hand suddenly appeared and wrote on the wall of the banquet hall. And notice it says the hand wrote opposite or next to the lampstand, and so it was well lit for all to see. Maybe they've got the lights down low kind of thing, but there's a few lampstands around. And this hand appears next to one of the lampstands, and this finger begins to write. And I like that it says the hand wrote on the plaster of the wall. I imagine as the finger wrote on the plaster, it made some kind of scraping noise. Like fingernails on a chalkboard kind of thing. And you can picture this in your mind, right? Huge party, banquet hall's packed with drunk people, lights are down low, music is loud, bass is thumping, smoke machine, strobe lights. And then like the hand from the Addams Family suddenly, remember that? Appears at the wall, and this finger, and then all of a sudden you hear, this scraping sound. The music stops. Everybody stops dancing. They're real still as this finger scratches this message into the wall. I'm sure that sobered everybody up real quick, seeing that. Now, this is not the only time in the Bible that we see God writing with his finger. God wrote the law on the stone tablets that he gave to Moses. Exodus 31, verse 18, when the Lord finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the covenant of the law, the tablets of stone inscribed, it says, by the finger of God. Jesus, of course, John chapter 8, the woman caught in the act of adultery, Jesus bends down and he begins to write something in the dirt. We're not told what. But with his finger, he begins to write in the dirt. And the accusers that are gathered around, they actually see the finger of God write in the dirt. And we're told that the accusers, one by one, from the oldest to the youngest, they all turn and leave. There's another occasion in the Gospels when Jesus is casting out demons. And the religious leaders, he casts out a mute demon. And the people say, hey, isn't this the son of David? To the religious leaders, and the religious leaders say, no, he's doing this by the power of Satan. And so Jesus gets in this exchange with the religious leaders, and he says, if it's not, he explains it and defends it, but then he says, if it's not by the power of Satan, then it's by the finger of God that these demons are cast out.